This is episode 42 of Joe Lum's album review. This week I'm going to be reviewing Dokken's debut record, Breaking the Chains. Originally released in Europe in 1981, the UK in May of 1982, and in the US in September of 1983. Once you're done watching this video, you can go back and watch previous episodes of my album review series. The playlist is in the description box. It's time to go to work. Well, let's begin with the backstory behind the whole thing. See, Don Dokken, first band, was formed in 1976 by the name of Airborne. He played shows at clubs in the Los Angeles area, including the Starwood on the Sunset Strip. Airborne included Bobby Blotzer, future Rat drummer, and Juan Croucier, future Rat bassist. But Blotzer and Croucier left the band in 1978 to form Firefox. Don Dokken was unable to keep Airborne name because another band, Airborne, had already acquired a record deal. Bringing in Greg Peck on drums and Stephen R. Barry on bass, Dokken recorded a 7-inch single, Hard Rock Woman, B-side with Broken Heart, released in 1979 under the name Dokken, produced by Drake Levin, best known as the guitarist for Paul Revere and the Raiders. A Dokken lineup consisted of Don, guitarist Greg Leone, drummer Gary Holland, both from the band Sweet 19, which has once featured Motley Crue's Tommy Lee, and bassist Gary Link. Toured Germany in 1979, where the band met an up-and-coming producer by the name of Michael Wagner, who would follow Don back to Los Angeles for a short vacation, a move that became permanent shortly thereafter. The 79 touring lineup quickly fell apart, with Leone taking over Randy Rhoads' spot in Quiet Riot, Holland joining Dante Fox, later known as Great White, and Michael Wagner produced Hamburg recording of the 1979 lineup, serviced in 1989 under the title Back in the Streets, released by the German label Repertoire Records without the band's consent. Dokken toured Germany again in 1980, this time with Croucier back on bass. In early 1981, Don Dokken returned to Germany trying to get a record deal with a new band in tow. Guitarist George Lynch and drummer Mick Brown, who had been playing in a band called Exciter at the time, with Croucier remaining on bass. After recording demos with Wagner and with the help of Accept's manager Gabby Hauck, a deal was secured with Carrera Records, recorded between July and September of 1981 at Studio Stammelin with Wagner and Dieter Dierks, who was famously known for producing Scorpions albums such as Love Drive, Blackout, Love It for a Sting, and among others. Breaking the Chains was initially released under the name Don Dokken before it was simply changed as just simply Dokken on subsequent pressings. While in Germany, Don would also demo songs with the Scorpions for their Blackout album, as the band's singer Klaus Meine was forced to undergo surgery on his vocal cords, and his return was uncertain for a time. Dokken did eventually perform backing vocals on the album. Meanwhile, Lynch, Brown, and Croucier ended up working as studio musicians for German singer Udo Lindenberg on his 1982 album Keule, Keule. Promotional activities for the European releases of Breaking the Chains, including a German TV appearance, as Dokken performed a 40-minute live set on the Beat Club as part of the Music Latin Extra, which aired on January 4th, 1982. Back in the United States, Dokken were now managed by Cliff Bernstein, who got the band signed to Elektra Records for a stateside release of Breaking the Chains, remixed for the American market. Dokken played a couple of shows with Warren DeMartini on guitar when George Lynch briefly left to rehearse with Ozzy Osbourne's band while on tour. The band did an arena tour in the U.S. with Lynch back on guitar, supporting Blue Oyster Cult in 1983. But when the tour was over, the band was left with little money and was nearly dropped from the label due to the album's lack of success. I want to go right ahead and get to both versions of the track listings, starting with the 1981 Carrera Records version All the tracks were written by Don Dokken and George Lynch, except where noted. Breaking the Chains clocks in at 350. Seven Thunders, written by Don Dokken, George Lynch, and Mick Brown, clocks in at 350. I Can't See You, written by Dokken and Juan Croucier, clocks in at 330. In the Middle, clocks in at 345. We're Illegal, written by Dokken, Lynch, and Croucier, clocks in at 337. Paris clocks in at 342. Stick to Your Guns clocks in at 330. Young Girls clocks in at 315. Felony clocks in at 307. Knight Rider clocks in at 311, written by Dokken, Lynch, and Brown. On the Elektra Records 1983 version, Breaking the Chains clocks in at 343. In the Middle clocks in at 343. Felony clocks in at 308. I Can't See You clocks in at 312. Again, written by Dokken and Juan Croucier. Live to Rock and Rock to Live, written by Dokken, Lynch, and Croucier, clocks in at 339. Knight Rider, written by Dokken, Lynch, and Mick Brown, at 313. Another song written by Dokken, Lynch, and Brown called Seven Thunders clocks in at 355. Young Girls clocks in at 314. Stick to Your Guns clocks in at 325. And the Live in Berlin December 82 version of Paris is Burning clocks in at 507. Breaking the Chains was a commercial flop in the United States, and Elektra Records was thinking about dropping the band entirely. However, Dokken's management convinced Elektra that they could make a more successful album, which materialized in Tooth and Nail in September of '84, which is exactly what they did. Around that same time, Juan Croucier, who had worked on the '83 version of Breaking the Chains, had left the group to join Ratt, along with Warren DeMartini. And he was ultimately replaced by Jeff Pilson. So, Breaking the Chains, the title track, was named the 62nd greatest hard rock song by VH1. It is featured on the radio station V-Rock in the 2006 video game Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. My overall rating for Dokken's Breaking the Chains is 30 out of 100. While I never got the chance to listen to any of the songs from the 1981 version of Breaking the Chains, I have the 1983 Elektra Records version. I gotta be honest with you, man. Breaking the Chains 1983 was much better than 1981's Breaking the Chains because of songs like the title track and In the Middle and Knight Rider and Paris is Burning. Even though the song Paris on the 1981 version was a kick-ass song. This has been Joe Lumb's album review for this